Very good evening to our viewers. Let's start with the trigger.
Nbs Frontline. The roadmap to the 2026 general elections is out, and it will cost Ugandans 1.3 trillion shillings to implement.
An increase in the number of administrative units, as well as continuous improvements or reforms in the electoral process.
While launching the roadmap, Electoral Commission boss Simon Byabakama warned political parties against embarking on an early campaign frenzy. But is this even a tenable outcome? Already, vocal mobilizers are organizing birthday parties, deemed campaigns by the opposition, while the official Yellow Camp is pushing the Muzei Tavaku Main slogan. Meanwhile, in the opposition, turbulence has engulfed the Blue Camp, and the troubled Green Party remains at war with its president, who recently enjoyed a homecoming.
So that wherever you go, we bless you with harmony and harmonization.
For its part, the Red Camp has been watching events in silence, recruiting from other opposition parties with a measure of consistency. So we ask, how is the political terrain shaping up ahead of the 2026 elections? Is Uganda's opposition able to mobilize in time to give the ruling NRM a run for its money when Byabakama's time for campaigning finally comes? This is The Frontline.
Look at me.
Nbs Frontline.
Welcome to the Frontline tonight. My name is Simon Kagwanjala. Of course, it's time for us now to do a sneak peek or a forecast of what 2026 holds amidst all the uncertainties. Well, is it going to be like just any other election, or it could be a totally different election? We'll be delving into more of these questions. And what does Byabakama present to the country in the roadmap where Ugandans, the taxpayers, are going to part with 1.3 trillion shillings to run the presidential and parliamentary election, slated for between Jan 12th and February 9th. What should we be looking at? What are the likely scenarios? Well, I'm joined by the frontliners, Honorable Nbs Ssemujju Nganda, Member of Parliament, Chira Municipality, and spokesperson for the Forum for Democratic Change. Good to have you.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I am fair.
You're fair?
Yeah.
What transpired in today's press conference? It, to me, gave me an impression that finally you've parted ways with the headquarters.
No, the press conference was by members of the FDC National Executive Committee to tell the FDC leaders and members not to participate in Nandala and Amuriat Shamu elections. That was the gist. Because
a true manifestation of two FDCs now.
Doing so would mean that you are joining a group that is on its way to Museveni. But the leaders at the press briefing should have had an internal discussion in the National Executive Committee, which Amriat can't call because he lost the support in NEC, so he cannot call NEC. That's why he said, no, we can free, instead of frisking muscles, we can speak to the FDC there through the media. And we did, and we are very happy that the message was
I'm looking at a homeless faction of the FDC that goes to hotels, goes to sharing hall. Is this the impression that you're creating?
So what is at the headquarters?
It is the seat of the party.
The FDC go to that headquarters much later. In politics, what is important is not the headquarters. Kyagulanyi had a campaign without a headquarters. He was actually using his own facility. Was the FDC more successful because it has an headquarters?
Well, very interesting. Perhaps that could be one of the pointers to the 2026 discussion. Honorable Winnie Kiza, a frontliner and former woman member of parliament for Kasese. Good to have you.
Thank you, and good evening, viewers.
What are you picking from the political radar?
Everything is at stake.
Well, very interesting. Well, tonight our guest is the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, Louis Rubongoya. Good to have you and a very good evening.
Good evening to you and a very good evening to the viewers.
How is it Kamocha or Kavule now?
Both. Our headquarters still sits at Kamocha, but we are renovating our premises at Kavule and we shall soon be moving there.
So what's trending at Kamocha?
We are in the struggle to remove the dictatorship in Uganda, and that's what we are still involved in. That's everything we do is really aimed at that, changing our country for better and changing the lives of our people.
Well, our frontliner, the government spokesperson and the executive director at the media center, Mr. Fono Pondo, is joining us tonight. A very good evening.
Thank you, Kabaka Njagala.
No. I'm Kagwanjala, for the record.
No, I thought you had now assumed the name of Kabaka Njagala.
No.
And talking of Secretary Generals, I think Secretary Generals are getting into trouble. I hope my young brother will not get into deeper trouble.
I thought Noop is safe. Or your overtures are now stretching to Noop.
I have been reading some things as well. But
they could, maybe wait. They have started.
Let's wait.
So your own slot is now targeting FDC, rather Noop?
No, we don't have to target them. The internal management style brings the implosion usually. But they will, of course, blame other people, especially the NRM. You have had my brother Ssemujju. Everything is NRM engineering it. Nyanjura is chased from a meeting, is the Museveni. Somebody does this. When they receive money, it's the Museveni. When they don't have the money, it is also Museveni who is denying them. So, it's okay.
Well, on my very extreme end is a very good friend of mine, Dr. Tanga Odoi, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of the National Resistance Movement Party. Good to have you, and a very good evening.
Good evening, my good friend.
You seem to be in high spirits
honorable
tonight.
Panelists. And
thank
you for the coronation ceremony, covering the coronation ceremony up to the last dot.
Well, interesting. Well, we get straight to the issue of the night. Honorable Winnie Kiza, what comes into your mind when the chairperson of the Electoral Commission unveils an electoral roadmap, but then cautions players not to start going around campaigning early? And then at the same time, the Minister for Justice remains vague on electoral reforms. What does this speak to you?
You know, I'm not so sure whether this election will be different from other elections that have taken place in Uganda under Byamukama. I'm not so sure. The trend will still be the same. We have gone in elections and we have seen the forces all coming out to ensure that the game is not free and fair. So the roadmap is a welcome idea. A roadmap is a normal exercise that the Electoral Commission should do. We don't know how the Electoral Commission could forget bringing a roadmap and actualizing the roadmap for the LOC1 elections. In the current situation, if Byabakama is bringing a roadmap and he's already cautioning players, but we know that there are players who are already into the field, and those ones cannot be cautioned, then we doubt whether really we shall still have a free and fair elections, because that has been the issue in this country about elections. We have never had free and fair elections. The election is just geared towards bringing the same person whom the Secretary General of NUP talked about, the dictator. He's a player in the game. He's the linesman. He's he's an official at the same time. He's the one who has appointed the referee. So there will never be fairness. There will never be justice, which may never have.
So is there a reason to warm up to 2026?
I don't see any reason why we should even begin warming up. But because it is an exercise we should look forward to, we tell Ugandans, you never know, we may cause the changes that we want.
You tend to depict elections as a mere ritual.
It is a mere ritual for now. And I can say this without any fear of contradictions. Elections in Uganda becoming a mere ritual. You see electoral officials rigging their own election, and they are not even afraid, they are not even ashamed. We don't even know why we should keep wasting taxpayers' money that we are carrying out an election which is already predetermined. In fact, we are almost thinking that it is not an election, but an allocation. You go there knowing that these votes are allocated to so-and-so is going to be a leader. This one, by all means, must not be a leader, and it happens. It has happened in many constituencies where DR forms are cancelled of candidates where they are supposed to win an election. So unless the Electoral Commission really styles up and assures Ugandans that the electoral process will be different from the other elections that we have had, well, I have every feeling that we don't even have to warm up for those elections.
With all these misgivings, is 2026 anything Ugandans should be looking forward to?
You know, many Ugandans must be even getting afraid that 2026 is getting close at the corner. If you asked the relatives of the people who were killed in 2020, they will tell you that if the same is going to happen, then we would rather not have an election. Go to the political prisoners who are still in cells. For me, when I look at my own people, I just imagine those people were killed because Kasese did not vote for President Museveni, period. Nothing else. So if that is what an election means, then we would rather just say, let the dictator stay until God relieves us, then we can sort ourselves later.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Tanga Odoi, what in your opinion is at stake as Byabakama announces or unveils a roadmap for 2026?
Well, I think I was there yesterday when they were unveiling.
Don't you know?
When they were unveiling the roadmap. I'm actually glad that this roadmap has come out early. And like I did say yesterday, I want to say it today to viewers and members of the party that we are gearing up to starting preparation. Because once an electoral process starts,
they are beginning.
We should actually be the leaders, we should be, to give the people clear message about what we want to do. We should not be the type of what I'm hearing from my sister here, that there's nothing,
you're part of the perpetrators.
There's no need for us to go for election, and tomorrow you present yourself. Because the best way and the constitutional way of changing government, as far as I know, is through elections in a democratic dispensation.
Well,
if you want to change it through a coup, then the legislators are here, former and current.
Well, how is this announcement from Byabakama finding the NRM? In what shape is the party ahead of 2026?
We had a very lengthy meeting today, wherein we presented, because I was the one who actually was there. The Secretary General had other assignments after coming from Russia. I was actually the one giving them the summary of what took place. And it is now our duty as a party to come up with a roadmap, not in tandem, but to space ourselves and find that we do all our electoral activities without having to rock the boat. We have Justice Bebakama disclosed to us that they have 1,908, I think, positions to fill. I mean, 1,908 positions to fill. In NRM, we have elections which go up to over 2.5 million. Because we have the structure election, we should continue to give us leaders who we call flag bearers. We have structure elections to give us the presidential candidate. So we have massive election right from the grassroots. And so as chair of NRM Electoral Commission, I want to use this opportunity to tell members of NRM to get ready. We are going to prepare candidates for LOC1 so that the time government gets money, we have them. We are going also to prepare candidates at different levels. But I liked the roadmap because the roadmap seems to stretch to start in 2024. I don't have a copy here. And that is a call to all political parties, serious political parties, to start preparation. I think by that time, even the feuds and the petty squabbles within some political parties maybe will have settled. And they play, but within NRM, we are getting ready.
So the roadmap is timely?
No, the roadmap is timely. I liked it. Don't ambush us. Give us time.
How about the uncertainties surrounding the much hyped electoral reforms?
Well, I think one of that question came from, was it not the man from Kosovo Party, but I think someone from DP? And the answer was given by Justice Bebakama, that we still have time. And good enough, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Honorable Robert Mao, was there. And he says we are going to follow up this and make sure that we have these reforms. Especially,
these suckers,
I'm talking about what they said.
The Secretary General of DP asking the President of DP about electoral reforms. Because Siranda was asking.
May I answer my question so that
DP
I give
asking DP.
May I complete my statement?
And the professor is very happy.
May I complete my statement? About what happens in DP, that's not my role for now. Except if it comes to the play field for all of us to watch the data, I mean to watch how they actually clean their data linen in the public. If DP has a problem, that's an in-house. I'm talking about what you asked me. The question was forwarded to the President General of DP, who is also the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Reforms, and he assured the public that these reforms will come. It's not late. Well, but he also called on the leader of government business, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, to try to make sure they expedite. Actually, in the cabinet on Monday, he promised to raise it. And I think I was happy with it.
Well, thank you very much. Lewis, by the look of things, how deep are you reading into the roadmap of the Electoral Commission, and what does it suggest to the National Unity Platform?
Well, for starters, of course, it should concern everybody that the NRM is always gearing up for another ritual. When, for us who are truly interested in democracy in this country, see this as something that has just become a ritual for the regime to simply entrench itself. As you all know, dictatorships like Museveni's usually want to have elections for purposes of legitimizing themselves. And so that's why it's very painful to hear that they are going to spend over $1 trillion shillings to organize another election. In fact, before you even talk about a roadmap, the question of reforms which were, for example, recommended by the Supreme Court of this country in 2016 that have not been implemented up to now. So you have a Supreme Court, it had a case and determined that there are some recommendations which were very important. And if you look at those recommendations, they don't even go to the root of the problem that has happened in this country. But if any government worth its name would try at least to implement the decisions of the Supreme Court of the land, the recommendations.
Which reforms particularly do you want to be implemented?
Because, for example, one of the recommendations was this idea of bribery. They said no one should be giving donations during an electoral period, including the person who calls himself a president. But you saw in 2021, General Museveni went around launching markets, doing all sorts of things. giving hoes, doing all sorts of things, under the auspices of saying that he's a sitting president and therefore he can still do his work. The Supreme Court clearly said that that is a form of bribery, and clearly said that the laws should be amended to bar any single person from engaging in such acts. Of course, they also talked about making individual public officials culpable, you know, for their role. First of all, they should be clearly banned from being partisan, but most importantly, there should be culpability on their part. They should be punished if they engage in these kinds of things. And there are many other, of course, recommendations in terms of the number of days to be taken to file a petition, for example, a presidential election petition. There was a recommendation regarding if, for example, an election is annulled, it's not practical to have another election in 20 days as stated by the law, and other recommendations. But to see that the regime did not find it important to even implement these ones, because we've been talking about other structural reforms. For example, who appoints the Electoral Commission. The Supreme Court did not talk about that, but that's very, very important. That goes to the core. You know, you have Byabakama, whose history is well known in this country, with Dr. Chiza cases, etc., etc. And he's now the one presiding over an election where we are seeking to dislodge Genome 7. So for me, I think, and I want to agree with the Honorable Winnie Chiza, that the people who lost loved ones, the people whose close relatives are still in detention, us who are, you know, going through this every day, receiving all these people, we have missing people who were disappeared in the last election, who were taken away up to now. You don't know where they are. People like John Bosco Chibalama, John Damulida, Kanata Muhammad, and others, whose whereabouts are still unknown. And now they're saying, let's go into another electoral process. So
is boycotting or participating on the cards? Are you weighing anything?
From the outset, I want to say that my views, the views I'm expressing here are my personal views. The party is yet to sit to discuss, deliberate on the roadmap, and we take a decision. But we have been very clear that...
Don't you think it's too little, too late for you to take a decision now?
No, we can take a decision at any time. Even when you've already been nominated, you can actually withdraw your candidature, as you know. So it's not too late. But the point is, we've also been very categorical why we participate in these elections. People have been asking us, why do you go to this by-election? There's a by-election going on, being prepared in Hoima, for example. Tanga Odoi here, you know the mayhem he has caused in all these by-elections that have been happening in this country. We are going into another by-election.
Is it Tanga
Odoi working with the military and police,
of course, you've seen what has happened, what he did in Kasese, in Soroti,
yes,
in Oyam recently, and other places.
And Bukede.
So, and in Bukede and other places. But someone may ask, why then do you go into these elections? And we've been very clear that one of the reasons why we go into these elections is, first of all, to, you know, take our message to the people. Because as you know, although we have political parties in this country, yeah, you're not allowed to, even tomorrow if I want to do a rally in Mbarara or in Arua, I will be blocked. You've been seeing how the regime has been behaving. So these election activities sometimes give us an opportunity to take the message to our people, to also unveil our leaders, build their capacity, and prepare the nation, you know, charge the nation for what we believe is the correct way of changing government.
The Byabakama, who presided over an election that you claim to have won, is the same Byabakama who is going to be the chairperson at the helm of elections for 2026. Does it give you an idea of the outcome, the possible outcome? And
that's what I said. I already said that. Yeah, but you know, dictatorships are never taken down through their own willingness and that kind of thing. For us, we are mobilizing our people, asking them to rise up and reject this madness. You know, you cannot have the kind of election that we had in 2021. You saw what happened. And now they're just preparing another phase of that. So I think our message, even like I said before, we sit to take decisions on the nature and whether we'll participate and all these other things. The most important thing is for us to speak to our people, to the people of Uganda, that we live under a military regime, and we should do everything possible right now, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, to change government so that we can have free and fair elections in this country.
Thank you very much. Oh, very fresh from Russia. I forgot to welcome you back, by the way. What does it mean for a country to go into an election with a lot of questions without answers, especially on reforms? And you get that sense of deja vu that perhaps what has been happening is likely to happen in 2026.
Well, even without having gone to Russia, I would still be holding the same head and brain. So don't impute. Don't impute that,
Russia.
Perhaps I have borrowed some. No. First of all these are excuses. For those of you who are younger, I can see on my left you are younger. There is no elections in Uganda since NRM came that have not attracted misgivings. In 1987, when we were asked to go for RC elections, the Iron Lady of UPC, as she was then known, Emat Cecilia Ogwan, asked UPC people, and they said the UPC people don't participate in the election. They stayed away, actually, the prominent. When we were expanding the NRSC in February 1989, she did the same thing. When we were going for the CA elections, there was a big dispute in the NRSC, which was the interim parliament, whether NRSC should be converted into the Constituent Assembly, so that we deal with what my young brother is talking about. We don't waste taxpayers' money. And eventually, we settled in the NRSC that we should elect a completely new body to debate and promulgate the Constitution. So that has been. When we were going for the CA election in 1993, Milton Obote, then in Lusaka in exile, wrote, I still have the letter, instructing UPC members not to participate in the CA elections. That's actually when it dawned on Cecilia Ogwan that the political train had left UPC. And she defied Obote, her, Ben Wacha, the Leto Kule Park, Agura Wori, and many others defied Milton Obote and participated in the election, and they won. And you know what happened? Milton Obote from Lusaka fired all of them, fired Cecilia Ogwan. That's when he actually appointed Dr. James Ronyarare as the interim chairman of UPC. As they say, the rest is history. As you know, my mother, Cecilia Ogwan, has continuously participated in these elections, organized by the monolithic dictatorship of Yoweri Museveni and NRM. So, what Rubongoya is saying is not new. The cliche they are using, not new.
Same rhetoric, different.
So I think what they are doing, like what Rubongoya is saying and what my sister Winnie is saying, partly is going to discourage their own would-be supporters, dampen their mood that elections are of no use. You remember in 2010, when we were doing the update of voters register, Kizza Besigye said elections can't change Museveni, can't remove him. He went and hid in Karamoja. He went and hid in Karamoja and updated his status from there, from Moroto. You remember they went with the Mao, Mao stayed away. Consequently, Mao did not qualify either as a voter or as a candidate. But Kizza Besigye did.
Qualified.
So, these are things we are used to. Now, let me turn to the question of the reform. Yes, there are reforms that are necessary, and the Prime Minister did make a commitment yesterday that by the end of this year, by December, there will be the cabinet will be introducing reforms. I want to believe, I have no reason to doubt the Prime Minister. they may not be the same reforms Honorable Winikiza is thinking about. But it is in that parliament, therefore, that we expect the likes of Honorable Winnie Byanyima, or rather Winikiza, the Rubongoya's team, which is now the leader of opposition, to bring counter proposals in the committees, so that even the reforms is claiming that the Supreme Court directed will be brought. And if the framers of the Constitution had wished that the instructions of the Supreme Court become law,
then why would
they would have become law as by the directive of the Supreme Court. There would be no need to go to Parliament. So the Supreme Court is like any other body in Uganda to make proposal. Its proposal cannot be assumed to be an order to the Parliament of Uganda to incorporate in the laws of Uganda. And I think when the justices made that finding or directive, they also knew very well that that was simply an opinion of the Supreme Court as a body.
Correct.
Well,
now, the roadmap itself, first of all, the roadmap is already defined in the Constitution and the electoral laws of Uganda. It's not something new, except probably putting some specific time period for certain activities, which any reasonable political party or political group or even an individual who wishes to stand for election as an independent should be having in their mind, if I want to stand for member of parliament, what do I need to do? What do I need to have? You remember when Sebagala went to look for some Manila because he knew he did not have the equivalent of senior 6. He went and looked for Manila 2 years before, I think. So any reasonable political actor should not actually even wait for the Electoral Commission. So the Electoral Commission has done us, actually, in my view, a favor to give us its own roadmap, which then the other players should try to fit theirs into.
Well, thank you very much.
And in the case there are other issues, you can go back to the Electoral Commission and say, this period you have given is insufficient or is inconvenient. Can you readjust? And I think the Electoral Commission will be ready to open to other players, to all the players, to take in their views.
Well, thank you very much. Honorable Ssemujju, by the pronouncement of the Electoral Commission, there is every impression that the stage is set. You are among the actors, and there are mixed voices. Some are saying elections are no longer making any sense, especially the likes of Kano Besigye. What, in the first place, do you make of the roadmap? And what do you feel about the current environment as we head to 2026?
Elections in Uganda have different elements. There is the element of money. That's why Tanga Odoi is very happy, because Museveni will give him money to organize NRM primaries, and there will be some apartments for him and his colleagues with whom they are serving Museveni. He told you he's very happy. The
elections are his cash cow.
Oh, you didn't see the excitement when he was saying, I'm very happy the roadmap for us, we are starting. Museveni will give him money
wants me to cry
to go and organize NRM primaries, and I said apartments will begin germinating in Kampala and Wakiso. Even for Museveni, the last election, Museveni's sister Kajubiri, the husband who is a German and was given a contract to run partially Uganda Printing and Publishing Corporation, had been given a contract of more than 200 billion shilling to print election materials in Germany and elsewhere. So even that family is happy, because another big enterprise is about has been unveiled. Museveni's Muko will go to print election materials. So the excitement by that corner of Tanga Odoi and Museveni family is understandable. In the early years of Museveni, especially when he still had his contemporaries around him, every election calendar, every electoral process provided the country with an opportunity to continue improving its systems incrementally. That's how we moved from a purely military regime to allow some parties to operate. You remember Museveni putting on a council to go to Masaka to begin campaigning as a civilian leader. Of course, later he would carry an AK-47, put on military uniform. And what should preoccupy us, Simon Kabakanjagala?
Kagwanjala.
Okay, Kagwanjala.
The new name.
What should preoccupy us, especially professors of university, is the quality of elections in Uganda, not the chances that a roadmap or an election calendar provides for individual political parties. That's what we should be debating, not just stamping for us, we are ready. We should be discussing the quality of election that we are able to deliver as a country, that we are able to deliver as an institution to Uganda, and whether we are making progress as a country.
But even before you go to quality,
yes,
would you give it to Electoral Commission for releasing their roadmap in real time?
Do you have an Electoral Commission in Uganda?
Yes, there is.
You've seen Mr. Museveni in the case of Bukedea. Museveni, who is very mischievous most of the time, is now the one complaining that there were electoral malpractices in Bukedea, ordering arresting of people. One of the crimes is that they voted for Wananchi, who turned up in the morning. The NRM team, which he heads, this professor, Tanga Odoi, voted for voters. They turned up at the polling station when voting had ended. Tanga Odoi was there physically. It is not Electoral Commission that is complaining. It is not Electoral Commission that seeks to...
It's not even voters.
Not even voters. Not Electoral Commission that seeks to clean up. So the Electoral Commission in Uganda works like any other institution captured by Museveni. If Museveni says in Oyam there are problems, then he will order a State House unit headed by military to go and investigate and even arrest people. In fact, elections in Uganda are conducted by Museveni. This Electoral Commission is just giving him a hand, but elections are conducted by Museveni. So that's why I said I am more interested in the quality of the election that you are going to give to the country, more interested in the fortunes of my political party. Because if you have good elections, you've laid the foundation for the country to develop. And that quality election is what will give you an opportunity to build institutions of state, quality institutions of state, and that's what will stop Mr. Museveni and his family. You were speaking about Ofonopono returning from Russia. They were just escorting a family. You saw where you have a Minister for Trade and Tourism. It was Rubongoya who marries Museveni's daughter that was presenting him to Serbia, where they are doing tourism. These Ofonoponos were just escorting. And that's why even when you welcome him, he says, no, my head hasn't changed. It would never change. Because what was your role? Just accompanying the family as they go around their business.
Why are you complaining?
So I look at I
thought we were talking about elections.
I am telling you where we are as a country. We are all captured. Even Ofonopono is captured. Tanga Odoi, a university professor, is a cheerleader going to steal elections. Do you think he enjoys it? That I am a university professor and my job is to go and cheat elections, and I go on a radio station and they're ambassading me. The things I can tell you, the things that are happening that they make them to do, no decent person will want to do what Tanga Odoi is doing. Nobody. But we are all captured, we are all victims. He can come here and say, because they are now salivating because another opportunity is coming. So that's why I want to focus my discussion on what we can offer to our country.
Yeah, but
what is it that we can offer to Uganda?
You have increasingly downplayed elections and participated in the same elections.
I have. Because in the area where...
Isn't this dishonesty of the highest order?
In the area, Idi Amin told the boxers in Uganda they are going for a tournament, and he said the referees are biased, the umpires. He said the only way to survive is by a knockout, because there is no way they are going to announce someone who's on the ground a winner. That's what happens. In the last election, I got 47,000. Then NRM candidate got 4,000.
You rigged.
4,000.
It was a knockout.
Tanga says you rigged.
So there is no.
Tanga says you rigged.
There is no way they are going to allow. They are going to announce someone on the ground as a winner.
Ssemujju.
Yes.
In 2012, when we had the by-election in Kasese, and I won the NRM candidate hands down, Museveni looked for an army man to complain. And they went, I'm told they went to court, and the judgment was passed ex parte. After I had even been sworn in, I heard they were still counting votes at the Electoral Commission office.
Where?
In Kasese. I moved from here, went to Kasese to find the entire election, presiding officers and these officers from Electoral Commission at the office of Electoral Commission. I said, guys, what are you doing here that we are still counting? What are you counting? May I have no agents there? I went and mobilized my people. They closed their offices. Museveni complained that I had won, and they didn't know how I won the elections. They wanted to go and verify whether really the margin of 39,000 that I had given their candidate was a real margin. These ones.
So if you want us to discuss the roadmap, that's the context under which we must be discussing.
Okay.
If you
come
look at
rain, come sunshine. There's going to be an election in 2026.
If you look at the proposal by the Electoral Commission, the entire electoral cycle, starting with the preparations last financial year through to 2026, the requirement is 2.4 trillion shilling. That's what they require.
In the strategic plan, yes.
In the strategic plan. But the number of electoral offices are also increasing. I think the last time they appeared before a committee on legal and parliamentary affairs, it was close to 2 million. I think now they will go beyond 2 million, including useless structures that will meet only the purposes of the election, and they will never meet again. Women council in the villages, youth, the people with the disability, the elderly, etc. The same way that Mr. Museveni runs the country is the same way that he runs the elections. When people are complaining of poverty, he will throw 1 trillion at 44 million people, and he will say, all of you now, you can become rich. Sometimes he will send his brother under Operation Wealth Creation. Even with the elections, now I think he wants everybody to participate. Because if you have 2 million offices for which to choose leaders, and you have 4 candidates from each of the political parties, it means a quarter of the population will be participating in the elections. Reforms are not just reforms for free and fair elections, but also someone sensible should see that we are in a crisis. The intern doctors, you can't sustain them because you have no money.
But, Honorable, isn't it odd that the Electoral Commission has come out with a very good document, laid it on table? The best you can now do is to start engaging the Electoral Commission for a better exercise.
You see, I have told you the Electoral Commission is not in charge. In fact, things are getting worse, at least under Aziz Kasuja. Because I remember I was still in the media, Aziz Kasuja writing to Mr. Museveni and telling him, if you don't remove your guards, at that time I think it was a presidential guard brigade from Rukunjiri, I am not going to organize the elections there. But Byabakama is not different from Chigundu. There was a time when I was an observer, Chigundu was launching a referendum, and he was nearly kneeling before Museveni. I don't know what's wrong with the Makerere professors, because that was also a professor of engineering at Makerere. These days you are really ashamed. Chugunu was near, okay, yes sir, at a press conference, you came back laughing. The chairman of the Electoral Commission, he went to launch a referendum campaign in the State House. And I don't think they are different. The things are getting worse. That's why in Uganda today, the only meaningful engagement would have been with the person causing all this trouble, not his agents. And that's why you saw the religious leaders, the Situation Room women, the elders forum, all pleading with Mr. Museveni. They know where Byabakama seeds. That's what I told the Parliament the other day. I asked Parliament, can Mr. Museveni publish a list of his relatives and you know who is in charge of what? Because you wake up and see an MP going to Mohos that he wants to develop his constituency, yet he knows where the Minister of Finance is. But they know there is nothing. They have to walk to the sun.
Well, thank you very much. In the midst of all these questions that are brewing as we get to 2026, what kind of sober conversation, Honorable Winnie Kiza, can the country hold to ensure that there is at least a semblance of a free and fair election?
You know, Kagwanjala, the country has been demanding for electoral reforms. And I think the one time we came closer to speaking one voice was in 2012, when all political parties, including civil society organizations, came out with what they called the Citizens' Compact on Free and Fair Elections. And in that document, they were talking about the necessary reforms that were required. They talked about the quality of elections. They talked about the removal of the military into the electoral processes. They talked about so many things. Of late, people are talking about preparing the country for a transition, which they think is also equally very, very important. Louis here talked about the laws that were, the recommendations that were given by court to the executive. In 2017, when they were bringing that motion of amending the constitution, actually they said they wanted to deal with the issues that were recommended by court. But along the way, all the issues that were recommended by court did not see themselves, they didn't see themselves into the document.
How about the change of name?
Of the Electoral Commission. That was also a request by the Citizens' Compact on Free and Fair Election. There was a change just of the name from Electoral Commission to Independent Electoral Commission, but how independent the Electoral Commission would be was now the issue. Because if it was to be an Independent Electoral Commission, was the independence just in the name, or it was supposed to be in practice? Listening to what Ssemujju is saying, and the practice that I know is that the Electoral Commission is actually not independent. It's an Electoral Commission that is selected by the President. If there is anything they do, it is the President who must direct it. And so they just earned the name of Independent Electoral Commission, but they did not retain their independence. And so going to the election of 2026, I will still say as long as the Electoral Commission is serving the interests of President Museveni, because all odds will be towards retaining the President Museveni's people and himself into leadership.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, and so it is not just about the name of saying we have an Independent Electoral Commission. The Independent Electoral Commission must be seen to be independent. That's one of the reforms that we think should now appear.
Well, we're taking a very short break, and when we return, Dr. Tanga Odoi will be giving us his evaluation of where things stand. A dispirited opposition, a questionable Electoral Commission, and an NRM that has been winning by elections, much as they've been disputed. Could the 2026 be an election for the NRM to lose? That and much more after the break.
Nbs Frontline. Nbs Frontline.
Welcome back. We're still talking about the odds for 2026 as the Electoral Commission unveils a roadmap that would guide the presidential, parliamentary, and other elections. Well, Dr. Tanga Odoi, a lot has already been said, but when you read the political temperature, do you imagine that this time the NRM is more likely to win more decisively than ever before? You're looking at the disputes within the opposition and the general atmosphere and also the background of the by-elections that you've been winning, plus, of course, the Acholi factor where you now have Mao by your side.
As a teacher by profession, I've never taught students to fail. I've always gone into an exercise where I want the best out of my students. I taught Muslim schools across this country, largely, and they will testify that the objective of my teaching was to develop a learner gradual up to when a learner passes. Once you enter political parties, the first thing you do is to play by the rules of the game, and if it is unfair, you declare it is unfair and you get out of the whole mess. Ssemujju has been a man in news for I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks, coming to 3 weeks. It could be for right reasons, but said wrongly without evidence. For the rot he exposed in FDC, one would say he has done a lot, but without evidence.
That becomes rumor.
I've been watching Ssemujju. I'm again with him here. He has again started a litany of what he cannot defend. He says elections will not be there. You asked him a question. Won't we see you participating? This leader of Kalagi. A man whose constituency goes up to Kalagi. A man who suffers up to that wide space is saying he will not participate. Give it time.
No, he has not said he will not participate.
You asked a question.
But he hasn't said he will not participate.
Oh, he has not said.
That's how you are teaching.
He has not said.
Your learners. That's how you are developing them.
I was reading today my notes of year 2, and I found where Professor Karugire made a comment, and I wrote the comment verbatim, that the best way of communication is listening. I think you see I'm doing a lot of listening today. What I'm telling you is that I'm just coming
but
from...
also misreporting what he...
I'm just coming... You'll have your time. I'm just coming from facts. They have declared there's no... This election is not going to be there. Or if it is going to be there, sham election. Here, Sam is here, the lawyer, the young lawyer. Tomorrow you'll see them doing all takes. What I said in the beginning is what I'll stick to. Once the Electoral Commission released the roadmap, Electoral Commission helped every political party to start thinking inward, to start saying, if we have trouble, do we ferment more trouble or do we reorganize our house? That is what we have started doing today at the Secretariat. I had to present what was presented yesterday and call upon the Secretary General now to lead us into how we should form and move.
As NRM goes into 26, there's also a contradiction on whether to go MK or retain
Could
Museveni.
you first of all read all the questions you wanted me to answer? You read, when we are going for a break, you read quite enough.
Yeah.
Could I answer that? I want to help the listeners, because we are well informed, maybe. Let them also get information from us, or let them judge us. What we want to do here is that the Electoral Commission, National Electoral Commission, which is not disputed, it is there, has released the roadmap. What are political parties supposed to do? Yesterday, the request, not even an order, the request by Justice Byabakama is that political parties which organize primaries must begin to organize themselves. And they must begin to organize themselves so that they don't give them trouble at the tail end of the process. And I said, well, maybe I was talking to NRM, because we organize primaries at whatever level. We have the most detailed election in this country, or even in Africa. If you go to election of Byabakama and then election which we have in Uganda and compare with elections elsewhere, this is the most detailed election. You have LOC1.
Yet chaotic. Detailed yet chaotic.
You have Women Council. You have MPs must come. You must have leaders up to 1,900,000, something like that. Now with the NRM, we have again the structure of the party. We should be the structure to discuss and deal with the issues within the party, not the press. The party should have the structure up to SEC, so that if there's an issue, you can't make it a routine. That election will be handled by NRM, Electoral Commission, which I head. And that is my preoccupation now. About how much...
You had the submission from Honorable Ssemujju that you're warming up to elections for money.
I was born and raised in a family which was not so poor. And good enough, we are here together. My father died at 97 years, not a poor man. What was his wealth? Making friends and being simple. And also being truthful. Whatever NRM pays me is a preserve, and it is privy to me. We have not come here to disclose wealth within to Njala, the IGG. We have come to discuss that launch of the roadmap. And allow me
and Ssemujju says,
I don't
to
mind
you it's pretty
what hasn't he
exciting,
said.
while to the country it is worrying.
The whole 2 weeks I said has been Ssemujju with the rumor mongering to destroy a political party where he claims he belongs. I was watching you here. Njala, you were actually with him and Nadala here.
Which you love so much.
The most important thing is that if you play to the gallery, it does not go for a long time.
Okay.
The facts will come.
Are the issues the opposition is raising mere scapegoats, you think?
What I want to emphasize is that this roadmap has been launched. The benefit should go to NRM people. Start organizing yourself. And when we come, we shall do the necessary. We shall not stop Ssemujju and company from saying the negatives they are saying. From wishing NRM.
Does Tanga Odoi have the contract as NRM?
Let
chairman?
us, if you are going to debate even my contract, then you are completely lost. I'm not ready for that today. Because what am I doing in a party?
Okay. Do the
called
issues...
NRM.
No. Do you ever consider
which issues,
the weight in the issues that these three...
You know, I will actually respectfully answer Honorable Winnie. When she raises her concern that when she won, there was a recounting of votes, that's okay. That's okay. Once elections are declared, it is not mandatory that everyone accepts the results. Those who don't accept, go to court. You don't go to the bush.
Does a recount happen after
when you go to court and a recount...
And even in the absence of the participant?
Well, that's what is supposed to be asked. She should have asked it at the right place.
Some people go to the bush.
She should have asked it at the right place. When the
results are released, they go to the bush.
What I want to tell the listeners today, the historicity and trajectory of elections in this country from 1962, I think NRM is now performing even better during NRM time.
Yeah, but the participants in elections are saying there is a degeneration in the quality of the elections.
These are participants from when did you go to parliament first time? When did you leave weekly something? This was when did you go to parliament?
And you are laughing. When did you leave Muwasa?
No, we are talking of other things.
Where you are fighting with the government. When did you leave?
Let me tell you, wherever I've been, I put my facts clear.
Everywhere you have gone, you are
when did you go to parliament? NRM has gone miles to correct politics and elections in this country.
Why did Museveni go to the bush?
NRM has done all its best to allow these people space, which was not there in 1980.
He went to the bush.
If your own principal is complaining about
the complaint of Bukedea, which you want to center on, is under investigation.
Yes, but it is a complaint.
It's okay. He's a citizen of Uganda. He has to complain, like Ssemujju is complaining. Why would you listen to Ssemujju's complaint and not listen to President Museveni's complaint? He's a citizen of Uganda.
He's the architect of stealing
I want to tell you, losers are already here. And NUP is going to take advantage of these two political parties. I must tell you. If you see the way NUP is behaving at its infancy, it's much better than the way FDC is behaving.
So you think NUP is gaining more momentum?
NUP could be having internal contradictions. When they launched, was it a constitutional review or something, where they said no second term, you could have voices, you had voices coming. Even the leader of opposition was saying, wait a minute. But they did not explode the way we thought they would explode. But then a rumor mill, the manager of rumors, comes up with the rumors about money. He called it dirty. He cannot say how much, where it came from.
Who is that? Who is that rumor
and
mill?
He spoils a whole political party he claims he belongs to.
Who is the rumor mill you're talking about?
Then he gets a whole Lord Mayor who should be a person of substance, a respectable person, and pushes into the trenches. The FDC problem is a problem Uganda faced for a long time before 1986. The issue of leadership. Listen a little. Listen to me a little. Let me develop, allow me develop my trajectory. The problem of Uganda since independence has not been rain. Has not been the fact that some areas flood. Has not been even the fact that sand or soil has become sandy. It has been leadership. Leadership at every level must be leadership which should actually bring the country together. We are the best country in East Africa for takeoff. You've been hearing, and I've been hearing you talk about the comparison of Uganda to Singapore, to Malaysia, to this and the other. What was the issue? Is it the issue that soil was not good? It is the issue of leadership. We had young leaders at independence. 28 years, Ibingira, this and the other. Well, what did they do?
Without us indulging so much into history, I need to get
so why don't you want history?
Yes,
why don't you want
Honorable Ssemujju.
Yes.
Just a minute, let me clear my point and allow me because I'm your guest.
I've given you enough time. I'll shift to Honorable
I want to
Ssemujju.
request you humbly, and for now, to request you humbly to allow me conclude this.
In a minute.
No, this is not your
In a
lecture
minute,
that you will speak
what
until
I
you
want
get
to tell
tired.
the public viewing
I thought
is
you
that
had given
the
me.
problem of all political parties is to focus on the weaknesses within the Byabakama roadmap.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Because all of us are contributing to the country.
Honorable Ssemujju.
Yes.
The NRM seems to say that all the reasons that you're now putting forward are mere rhetoric. You've raised them all the time, and yet participated in the exercises. Now you're saying elections are now taking a downward trend. Besigye the other day expressed his reservations about 2026, and I wish I could just play this for you.
Good.
Era nsaba nti ekizibu ekitambula mu ggwanga kitukoleko omulimu mu biseera bino nannyo nga tuwerekera muganda waffe okulaba nti twegatta mangu ne tulwana okutuukiriza kye tubaddeko.
Is it time for the parties now on the opposition side to get into a war room and start a deeper discussion on 2026?
You see, sometimes you have troubles discussing NRM with the people like Tanga Odoi. People who brought NRM here have one by one raised complaints about NRM and how it is managed and also how the country is managed. And you want me to begin discussing NRM with Tanga Odoi as if he's NRM. This is just a worker picked from Moasa. NRM should be discussed with Besigye, with Muntu, with Mushega, the late Kategaya. Not these ones who went looking for jobs.
It's okay.
When we are discussing issues of elections, he wants us to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of political parties. In Soroti, Tanga Odoi, with the soldiers and policemen raiding polling stations. One polling station he raided, got the FDC agents arrested. In the evening, because he wanted them to sign declaration forms, this Tanga Odoi went to police, picked them, brought them back to sign declaration forms.
This is a rumor monger.
So even if the FDC was to be strong, you simply can't win when you have people like Tanga Odoi stealing elections in broad daylight, university professors.
I'm so powerful.
That's why you have seen your own chairman now ashamed by actions of his own political party. Also complaining how at least you can cheat like Tanga Odoi. But how do you go and begin even voting for voters by 6, 7 p.m.? Ballot boxes are full. This is what we should be discussing. Even if the Ssemujju was not rumor mongering, did I tell you to go and cheat elections in Soroti? Did I tell you to cheat elections in Kayunga? Did I tell you to cheat elections in Bukedea? So even if Ssemujju was not speaking about the FDC and such a mighty party, very strong that Tanga Odoi now loves very much, it would still perform the same way because I just joined politics 2010. Oh, cheating 2010. Had started long ago. 2010. This is what should occupy
was
university.
It Tanga Odoi cheating then?
In 2010?
That's why now they are under investigation. His cheating is very primitive. At least they are cheating differently. But his cheating of raiding polling stations and voting for people.
But you just said that I would have done better than Bukede. You've just said it here.
That's that's why I said that at least the cheating earlier was not as bad as during your time.
Hey.
For you raid a polling station and you think I have told you things he did personally.
You think
not that I was told. Not that I was told. But things he did himself. That's why I said earlier, Angela, and I declined the invitation to begin discussing preparation of FDC, preparation of ANT, preparation. We need to look at the quality of election that we are giving our country. We need to look at the Electoral Commission and how it has grown. The Electoral Commission, in the past, Museveni has been influencing decisions of the Electoral Commission. Now he has completely taken over. Even where there are problems, he must be the one to sort them out. The agents of NRM who are marauding during a by-election, let me tell you, all the by-elections that we have had since the last general elections point to a crisis. Because the things that you've seen Tanga Odoi do in Soroti, things that they are doing in Bukedea, in Oyam, in Kayunga, I think it is a rehearsal. That's why I said they are happy, because for them, an election is an enterprise.
Well, do you share the notion that 2026 is likely to be more complex now that there is the Muhoozi factor at play?
There is no Muhoozi factor. Where does it come from? You see, Muhoozi is just positioning himself to succeed the guns his father is using to hold on to power. He's not seeking to grab the guns from his father. He's just positioning himself that my dad is aging. Either one day he can't wake up, and then now I'll be the one, like you saw Yadema's son, I'll be now the one in charge of guns. You think Muhoozi is going to be a candidate? It is not possible. He's just waiting for anything that will happen to take over. And that's why you've seen them, they are not very sure. Do I now say I support him or I don't? Suppose the big man runs out of energy and the son takes over. So there is going to be no Muhoozi. Museveni wants to die in office. Maybe he can only be stopped like...
Louis, do you imagine that for 2026, the hurdles that you have to confront are more than what you confronted in 2021?
Yeah, certainly. But I think one of the things that our viewers need to really appreciate is, rigging elections is a very, very serious issue. It should be classified as a crime against humanity. Because rigging elections is responsible for the mess that you see in this country. Yeah. It is responsible for the corruption. It is responsible for the mediocrity in the delivery of public services. It is because of rigged elections that people get appointed to offices they don't qualify for, and you eventually have the corruption, the potholes, all these problems that we have as a country emerge out of rigged elections. So that's why people need to understand, the people of Uganda need to understand that it's a very, very serious issue. This is not something to just talk about and leave. People need to understand the importance of elections, that, you know, a government that emerges out of a free and fair election, a government that feels accountable to the people, a government that draws its legitimacy from the people, will be careful not to do certain things. Certainly not to take 9 billion to teach people how to drink coffee, and not to, you know, you've been seeing the scandals that every other day come up in this country. So, but back to your question, I agree entirely that the trajectory we've seen, especially from the by-elections we've had, shows that we're headed for worse times. Because you can imagine like a by-election in Kayunga, where we won with about 15,000 votes. Clear. And then Biabakam, shamelessly, a judicial officer, they come and take over the polling station and declare the NRM candidate. Even after they had done all the staffing, he wouldn't win. So they come back the following morning and declared that the NRM had won that election. And then you saw...
And Tanga insists they won.
But of course, he knows the truth. He knows. And for me, I was shocked by the hypocrisy of General Museveni in that letter about Bukedea. Because I asked myself, doesn't he know that he's in office as a result of these very crimes that he's talking about? He called it treason. And I was like, then why? Because every Ugandan saw what happened in 2021. Tanga Odoi knows here what they did all over the country, how they abducted our supervisors, polling agents, switched off the internet, held our presidential candidate under house arrest for several days, and then he's expected to get evidence to take to court to challenge an election. You know, so the levels of election rigging are going from bad to worse. And I think the reason is simple. The more a regime loses legitimacy with the people, the more they have to do everything to rig an election, so there's no longer any shame. So I want you to look at all the by-elections we've had. Even Oyam, where they were competing against UPC, which is their ally, they tried to rig it. Even in Bukedea, you saw, and I think one of the reasons why they became concerned was because even the gentleman who was beaten up, prevented from nominating, all manner of things done to him, was aligning with them. But in Kasese, for example, the military took over polling stations, you know, with impunity, and it pains me that that is now the situation that is emerging in this country. So,
so you're seeing a bloody election?
I don't even know if we should keep calling these elections. I don't know if we should keep calling these elections. But like I said, and they keep saying, why do you criticize these elections and then show up? We've already told you the reasons why we do this. You know, a time may reach, yes, where we say we're no longer going to participate in this. But we may also say that let's go in with a view of achieving certain strategic objectives. And that is one of the things that...
As we eye 2026, do you have an idea of where the approval ratings of your principal, who is likely to be a candidate for 2026, how he's now being rated compared to 2021?
But he won an election. He won an election. He won an election. And the Tanga Odoi of this world, you know, had to place him under house arrest. And, you know, it pains me that this is a university professor, you know, doing all these kinds of things, because, you know, we need to give respect to the qualifications we hold, honestly speaking. And, you know, they did not even get ashamed. Even when they went to the convocation elections, they rigged them.
Yeah.
And you remember
Tanga Odoi was there.
He was there, and they had to bring in the military in a university at Makerere. So when you talk about the approval ratings of my president, he won an election. Before we even talk about the approval ratings.
Several years later,
that's what I'm saying.
Is he still a force to contend with if there was an election?
I mean, if we have a free and fair election, for us what we are saying, let's have fair play in this country. Let's have a free and fair election. And I think it is, I don't know if it is Honorable Ssemujju or someone who has been saying that even a jerrycan, if you put it there, it can win an election against the Museveni regime. So that's no doubt, because of the malaise he has caused in this country, because of the mess because of the corruption, because of the lack of public services, etc., etc. So just provide us with a free and fair election, and then you'll see.
Well, let's delve into the key scenarios. Do you think come 2026, NUP will be the force to contend with, considering that the FDC and other players are having internal issues?
Those are your words, not mine, about FDC having internal issues. I think they don't have internal issues. FDC is a very well-run party. That's why the John Kazoras are still in it. That's why the Manyamshegas have gone mute on it. That's why Mugisha Muntu and my sister are still in FDC. It is a very well-run party. I wouldn't want to associate with their comments. But let me first go back to what the allegations they have made about the independence of the Electoral Commission. Yes, in the practice, there may be mistakes that the Electoral Commission or its officials make. That does not remove their independence or its independence. The appointment of the Electoral Commission in Uganda and Africa generally are matters that have been debated widely. In Kenya, as you know, it is by public advertisement.
Yes.
The last election in Kenya, what did we have?
Up to today.
A commissioner running away. The commission being accused of influence peddling and siding with one side. So that public recruitment by public advertisement alone, in Uganda today, there are many offices that are by public advertisement. Would you want to say all officials being recruited and employed by public advertisement are independent, are competent, are doing the things the way they should be doing? Absolutely not. Not even perhaps Uganda, but the whole world. And this is not just in Uganda and Kenya, in Ghana. You know how they disbanded an electoral commission there. The way we appoint the electoral commission here, is it markedly different from the way we appoint judges of the Supreme Court? Is it different from the way we appoint judges of the Court of Appeal? So, why would you say the Supreme Court is independent and good? And
who has said that?
No.
Who has said that?
But you are the ones quoting that it makes directives.
Exactly.
And you're basing all the directives they have made. I think you agree with their directives. No, basing on, I listen to you, gentlemen.
Yes.
I know when you don't have a point, heckling becomes the cheaper way.
Do not impute words on us, or thoughts or opinions.
Heckling, when you don't have points, or you have failed to make them, heckling becomes the easier route for you to win a debate. But let me make my point. We'll have your time. So that alone does not make an institution independent. The beauty with it is that there are appeal mechanisms. If the Electoral Commission, either the entire commission or elements therein, are not independent in making decisions, the appeal mechanism.
So you're content with the current Electoral Commission?
Since Byabakama came, since the Chigundu time, I would want Mr. Ssemujju, I would want Winnie, I would want Rubongoya, and any other person who has been making those claims. Where have you taken these appeals? And what have been the decisions? Have you disputed the decisions or not? But it is a cheap way to make allegations because, you know, I think they have judged that their public is gullible. When you make allegations like the one Ssemujju has been making, you get away with it. And since you're in public media, nobody is going to put you to task. And that's how some of them have built their profile. It is okay to build your profile that way. Now, you have asked, are we content in NRM? Don't we have issues with the Electoral Commission? We do have issues with the Electoral Commission or with some of its officials. We raise with the appropriate organs that are supposed to. Now, for the government of Uganda has said many times, and its chief executive has said so, that we don't see in material terms what our colleagues in the opposition are demanding as electoral reform or constitutional reform. However, if they have those issues, let them bring, like Rubongoya is now, you are the leaders of opposition in parliament. Bring private members' bill, persuade the majority of the NRM that this is a logical direction which you would want the electoral process of Uganda to take by way of either constitutional amendment, legal amendments in the laws, or even administrative changes that you would want.
When you look at 2026,
yes, if you do that,
what do you think is likely to change? Or it is likely to be the same pattern, a disputed election, violent, kidnaps?
Well, we cannot prevent people from making disputes, raising disputes, whether frivolous or not. Currently, my brother, who Tanga Odoi just said has been in the news, has been disputing internal elections of FDC.
Yes, of FDC.
Is that NRM, they are managing the internal processes? No.
Today.
So we cannot prevent Mr. Ssemujju or any other person from disputing elections. What we challenge them is bring credible evidence so that the courts of law, or even the courts of public opinion, agrees with you. So that when we go for elections, let the voters deny NRM the vote.
Well, in terms of stakes,
in that respect, we shall know that NRM is on faulty ground if the people don't give us the vote.
In terms of stakes,
yes.
Has NRM gained more ground over the years, especially in areas where you performed dismally?
I think each election comes with a wave. You remember 1996, we were really that was the first presidential election, and I think Ugandans wanted to participate in the presidential election. Since that time, we have been seesawing. In 2006, you remember, we were up. 2006, because of 2001, we were up. 1996, we were up. 2005, I think, from where I sit, because I participated in all those elections as the spokesperson of the NRM, or even movement before that, I think our poor performance in 2006 was the clumsy way by which we handled the dispute with the BCG. We gave him a sympathy vote. And I want to attest here that even this last election, 2021, part of, you remember, even the voter turn-up was low at presidential and parliamentary. I think people just got dejected by the way the state machinery handled Chagulanyi. And I think that gave him momentum, especially in this area that is perceived to be his, because this is where he comes from, but also among the youth groups. If NRM repeats similar mistakes, I'm afraid the performance for the NRM, especially at the presidential level, could be worse. Secondly, the introduction of soft money, where everybody wants money in elections, and then they cheat each other, or they even spread false rumors that so-and-so has been given money. If those are not dealt with by the NRM, we could perform poorly. Then the other issue could be regional repositioning. What are the issues? What are the issues? I think the NRM, overall, NRM is climbing. Its popularity is climbing.
Okay, but is the Bobby factor anything to contend with for 2020?
Myself, I don't see it. If the NRM does not repeat those mistakes, myself, I don't see it where I sit. I travel across this country. I think Bobi Wine largely got sympathy votes, but also gullible votes. If NRM can deal with the gullibility of the voters who followed Bobi Wine.
You know, Yami was left free.
Yes. I don't see it. A man who cannot distinguish between monetary policy and fiscal policy.
How many voters in Uganda do?
I doubt. No, it is up to us, the campaigners, to distill for the voters the quality of our candidates. It is us, the mobilizers, who should do so. So I'm saying if the NRM state machinery does not make the same mistakes as in 2021, if the NRM does not throw about that obscene money, which gives, which brings internal friction, first of all in the party, but also in the country, and other malaise, I don't see where Bobi Wine is going.
Where is the, how is the MK factor playing out in your camp?
But thirdly, don't just judge the presidential election results.
Go to all elections.
There was also the parliamentary. The NOP, look at its concentration. Look at its concentration. And I have said here, if the NRM is able to assuage the discontent in Buganda, for example. You remember, in Buganda, people made accusations that they made a lot of sacrifices and they have walked away. Museveni is about to go, leaving them in poverty. So they sacrificed for nothing. The bloodshed in the Rubongoya Triangle was in futility. The other one, the Busoga, because those are the two regions, and Busoga. In Busoga, you remember, the NRM leaders themselves, for reasons best known to them, they were the ones saying NRM, and in fact, they were not saying NRM. They said Museveni has done nothing for Busoga. Museveni has not built a new road in Busoga. Museveni is the problem of the low sugar prices. Museveni is the problem of poverty in Busoga. Museveni is the problem of the high-handedness of the army on the lakes. Museveni is the problem of de-industrialization of ginger and so on and so forth.
Was it mere blackmail?
No, first of all, they were telling lies. Many of them have been in NRM leadership
just a minute,
for a long time. So they removed themselves from it. And that's why, actually, Museveni's vote in Busoga was low, while NRM
was winning.
For members of parliament, local councils, was actually, they retired overwhelmingly NRM leaders who had removed themselves from the problem because they feared, they feared to explain to the people their predicament. Their predicament was as a result of local leadership issues. And many parts of the country. Now, I don't see any party overtaking NRM in the belt of Eastern Uganda.
We'll take a very short break. I know, Louis, you're itching to respond, but when we return, Honorable Winnie Kiza will also be speaking to us on whether it now makes sense for the opposition
something on Muhozi. I don't know why
to get into a coalition of some sort to confront the regime. Let's get back.
Candidate. They hide the candidate like they have been beating them up.
But even before you go there, there is suspicion amongst yourselves.
Yes.
You now don't know who falls where.
Before the suspicion comes, we are dealing with a group that is capable of anything.
Suspicion first.
To the extent, it is you that we are suspecting first before we even suspect ourselves. We are not so sure whether if we came up with even a single candidate, whether the single candidate will even be able to...
Yes.
Gentlemen, when you were speaking, I patiently waited for you to finish your conversations. I don't see the reason why you should begin heckling at your edges.
I'm just giving you your medicine.
Have I told you I'm sick? Are you the one who treats me every day?
Okay, fine. Let's get back to the issue.
The issue is that as opposition, yes, it would be a good thing for us to sit down and organize. But you are seeing how there is pressure in the opposition political parties. And pressure coming from where? Coming from the regime. The regime will never want a united opposition.
Yeah, but I think that would be flawed.
No,
before you blame the regime,
first wait.
Blame yourselves.
Blame ourselves.
You're fighting each other.
We are fighting each other,
to
but
the extent
even before we fight ourselves.
To the extent that as we speak, there is a plot to weaken your party, the ANT.
I don't see that.
Oh. The recent crossing of Honorable Muiru and others.
I don't see that.
You need to look at the image.
You know, whether he crossed or there is a crossing, for me, I don't look at it as a bad thing.
I think that was in bad faith.
It is not that it was in bad faith. And to us as ANT, by the way, we have not looked at it as in bad faith. Look, if we are talking about a merger, how do we then begin saying the other ones are taking the other ones? If we eventually think of merging, we shall find ourselves.
No, it would kill the spirit.
We shall eventually find ourselves on one table if we choose to merge. But a situation that is bringing political parties into this disarray, like there is now in the FDC that they have been talking about, the source of the problem is pointing to some place, Entebbe and Nakasero, where there is money coming from Museveni as a person.
How much?
Coming to a political party to cause suspicion in the political party, to the extent that members are not comfortable with each other within a political party. Supposing it happens to us when we have united, and they start buying off individuals within the opposition. So we think about two things as opposition. One is either uniting as an entire opposition, and we think of fielding a single candidate, and we see how we even talk about having candidates that are for the entire opposition in the constituencies. But there is also coming up with a message, even when we are different, but talking. Like in the previous elections, even when we were in different political parties, but we were comparing notes, we kept talking to each other. We kept comparing notes from time to time, and we were not fighting.
Well, very
to
interesting.
the extent that we even were accountable to one another in terms of where the agents, a problem that hit me, hit NUP, hit FDC, and that is why we can all talk and say the problem is with President Museveni, who has taken all the state institutions into his pocket.
Lewis, what would be feasible under the circumstances? NRM seems to be gearing up to this. Nothing has really changed, but there is an election coming. It's on the calendar.
Like I said, we are involved in a struggle to change our country. And I want to really quickly respond to Ofono Pondo here, who talked about fiscal policy, monetary policy, and all that. And I wanted to remind him that it is actually those people who come with big grammar and talk about all these technical things that
are failing,
run down this country. They're the ones who are stealing money for HIV and TB. They're the ones who are stealing money for public roads. So for you to, even General Museveni himself, one time out of frustration when he was swearing in his cabinet, said that when they were fighting Amin, he used to think that they had failed the country because they were not educated, and he was surprised that his own ministers who have masters and all that have run down the country. And you know, I also wanted to respond to him where he says that before 2021, they said people are going to see a singer, that this is a mere wave, and they had to do all manner of things to contain this wave, the thing they call the wave.
And you've heard how dismissive OO is.
This is what they were saying even before 2021. You know, they were saying this is a wave, it will go away, people are just going to see a singer, they're just excited. Even Biawakama, I think they would have loved to give us like 500,000 votes. Even the 3.5 million or so votes they gave our president, it's because it was so overwhelming that they couldn't contain it. So this talk of, I don't see, the people know who their leaders are. And this idea that NUP did not get many MPs, of course the rigging you did at the presidential level, you also did at the MP level. And you know that very well. You remember what you did, where you had to even compromise some of our candidates who had gotten our tickets. Some of them, you abducted them. Our candidate in Arua, for example, was abducted and taken away for several days. And he was actually later on released after voting. Our youth MP for Eastern Region, the same thing happened to him, and many other candidates. So it's not that NUP did not perform very well at Member of Parliament level. There are factors which could explain all these reasons why the forces of change find these challenges, because you've seen, for example, where General Museveni is now writing about Bukede and all this, where you have the state apparatus working very hard. You have the DPC, the RDC, working very hard. Their objective is to ensure that the NRM candidate wins at all costs. So how do you come here?
You're confronting the same NRM, or could there be a different NRM that you're now backing?
For us, and we are fortified by history. We are justified by history. You know, I don't want our people to lose hope. Some dictatorships have fallen after 42 years. Others have fallen after 20 years. Others have fallen after 25 years. Our task is to continue pushing and encouraging our people, waking them up. For example, this point that we are making about rigged elections and how they affect them, our people to understand these things. A time may reach when actually the people of Uganda, they themselves, without even us, the leaders, telling them what to do, the people of Uganda may wake up one day and say, we are not going to allow this election to go on until there are these reforms or guarantees. That time can come. And for us, our duty is to continue speaking to our people, raising their levels of awareness, and to understand them how rigged elections have stolen their future from them.
Thank you. Honorable Ssemujju, is it time to confront the reality that parties cannot encounter President Museveni and his NRM, and perhaps a new formation should be created? Does it belong to any party now?
Did you ask Tanga Odoi?
No. There is a difference between Tanga and Ssemujju. You're not a professor.
I thought, what is with the professor? If
does it belong to FDC? Which party?
If Tanga Odoi behaves the way he's behaving, then I am not dying to be a professor.
FDC?
You see, the parties, can they not confront NRM? I said before, and I want to repeat, the difference between us and people who are sponsored by the NRM is money and guns. Even a civilian, the moment he puts on yellow, like Tanga Odoi, he will command them. I have told you what he did. Personally, what Tanga Odoi did in Soroti. Our cry for free and fair election is not necessarily for our own benefit.
Why is it the message sinking?
You've seen NRM turning guns on themselves. You saw what happened between the Honorable Kabasharira and Kutana Mwesuka. In the previous election, you saw what Nyanzi did, shooting people dead in Mitiana, what Wesonga did in Mbare, shooting people.
Sechikubo.
Sechikubo, the Honorable, my friend, my sister, Honorable Nankabirwa in Chiboga. If they can turn guns on themselves, imagine when it is you, an opponent. We speak about things that are real, things that are a danger to everybody, including people in NRM. Our demand for transparent elections, I have said, because in my constituency, even if you cheat, where I stand as an MP, I have told you in the last election, the NRM candidate got 4,000, and I got 47,000. So even if you cheated, but there are constituencies where you are competing. Those constituencies exist. Where you are competing and you are cheated, it is very difficult to win. So what we should be speaking as a country, and that's why I say I need to divorce political parties from this debate. Because this cheating did not start when Uganda returned to multi-party in 2005. The cheating started much earlier. You saw the election Dr. Kizza Besigye contested in 2001. The military, the shooting, the killing of people. You saw what happened in Rukunjiri. You saw what happened to Dr. Semogere when he went to campaign in Rukunjiri. You remember Bishop who turns up and they told him, we have voted for you. So this cheating of election deprives Uganda of an opportunity to have an accountable government. Because Mr. Museveni, who is still ruling this country by guns, by money, he is not going to be accountable to the population, because he knows that's not how he came into power, that's not how he sustains himself in power.
Okay, what are the scenarios that you see for 2023?
The demand, you hear him, he's so impatient. For us, we are not Soroti Tanga Odoi. I can tell you, you come to Chireka, you will see what will happen to you, even if you walk in with the soldiers.
Did the NUP rig in Buganda?
So the roadmap we've seen, it changes nothing. It paints a picture of what has happened in the previous elections under Museveni. Our participation, and I want to reinforce the point the NUP Secretary General made. We now begin treating these elections as a platform to continue fighting for freedom, but not necessarily that a gunman is going to hand over. When you see Palestinians protesting, people in Sudan, it's not that they are going to overwhelm guns that particular night, but they simply have no any other option, because we can afford to go and sleep. And Museveni campaigns against Ochegere like he did in a referendum, because that referendum all sensible people boycotted, but Museveni again appointed people to compete with him, which is now trying to do with the political parties. You get DP, you get UPC, now you come for FDC. He wants to achieve the same thing he achieved when his main challenge in a referendum was Ochegere, and immediately after the referendum, Ochegere is appointed ambassador in Nigeria. So that should concern everybody, because it happens in China, it happens in Rwanda.
Okay,
where
is 2026 stoppable, in your opinion?
2026 is not the cutoff. We need to continue battling. You need yourself to be battling. In Malawi, fighting against Bakiri Muruzu was not limited to political parties. Religious leaders participated. The same happened with the Chiruba in Zambia. So when you are fighting a dictator, and that's a mistake that because you, the media people, you divorce yourself as if we are the only one responsible for fighting a dictatorship. Yet we all suffer the same way. I remember when the Honorable Chagulanyi was visiting the UN Human Rights Office, even journalists were beaten. So the struggle to free ourselves is not a struggle just to free political parties. Even these victims who are deployed to go and beat people on behalf of a family, even them will be celebrating once that family has collapsed, like the one of Sohato. So don't think they enjoy. Let me tell you, Njara, you cannot be a university professor and you are deployed to cheat elections.
No. Someone sent me, a very senior professor sent me a message here and said, stop calling Tanga Odoi a professor. He's just a former lecturer of history who hasn't learned anything from history.
I don't know how can I dispute what I don't know. Well, for me, I think he's a
but I think that is not consequential for now.
You see, the point for me is that the policemen who are deployed to shoot and kill people and beat them, the soldiers, I treat them as victims. The day we all get our freedoms, you will see people celebrating the same way they are celebrating the fall of other dictators.
Well, Dr. Tanga Odoi, you sound really content with the quality of elections in the country, while there are too many voices out there disputing and raising question marks on the electoral trajectory of the country. Do you think the country deserves better?
If you watch behind the headlines in UBC and you are a television station which is leading in the country, you must know how to handle your clients, to the extent that you must know what should be given to the public that washes the clients. I take very stern position on how you conduct yourself with regard to some of us, especially that kind of, you should know what to read to the public.
Well, it is coming from a professor. So.
If that's what we want us to be mobilizing, I'll not do it. Number two, when you host us,
can we get to the
there are languages, I'm still talking to you. There are languages or words you must minimize. I've not gone my way to demean my opponent, Bobi Wine Kyagulanyi, for the simple reason I told him. And at no one time will I ever say he doesn't have a degree. I'll debate with the Ssemujju on the issues. For example, how is he destroying political parties? He's becoming a political prostitute. I don't know where he will run next. I'll debate with him.
Okay, I think calling him a prostitute is below the belt.
No, it
Political
doesn't.
prostitute.
It doesn't bother
Political
me.
prostitute is a connotation.
See,
now, I was testing
it does not bother
I'm
me.
testing
You can go ahead.
how sensitive you are.
You can go
you
ahead.
see how sensitive
For
you are?
me, it doesn't bother
Have
me.
I tested your sensitivity to negativity? I think you...
Well, I just want to tell our viewers that we are shortly crossing.
You can even cross,
but you can.
but I want to make a
continue,
point. I wanted to make that point, that I wanted to show you how...
Nbs Frontline.
You have labored for 5 minutes not to answer anything that I've asked.
Up next.
People who should do that are telling you, if we do this and the other. So what we need in this country is leadership at every level. And leadership that respects the fact that the people viewing, the people you push into a political contest will be victims because of what you say. You know, we must be respectful of the fact, and I can't fail to condemn NRM just because he has done it. I was not happy with where they were brutalizing people, beating people if they were by the roadside. Those could not be our supporters. They can put on t-shirts of yellow because they are found everywhere, and they do that. We have been discussing all these possibilities.
Yeah, but when it comes to matters of electoral malpractices, you have a lot to answer yourself.
No, last time
I have been in Uganda. I have been in Uganda longer than you. I have never been taken to any court because I'm not above the law. I do not just fall into this speculative thinking. If I have done something bad, I'm here. In Oyam, which is referring to, I made my point clear. And good enough, the Secretariat has now started investigating, and we find one of the people was not even connected to us. So I don't do my things to the gallery. And I said in the beginning, I've not come here to mess up listeners. What do we want to do for Uganda? All people, all of us must know we are leaders. Why don't we make sure we go to the Electoral Commission, lay the complaints, and declare whether you are going to participate or not?
Well, as we get out of here,
lastly,
do you think the time is right? I'll go to because we are running out of time. You've had your time. You've had your 7 minutes.
Lastly, as your guest, I want to request you, and humbly,
Dr. Tanga Odoi
and family,
Dr. Tanga, please allow me.
I want to request you to go back and review how you relate with your guests.
Can I pose my question to OO?
You can pose it.
I'll
tell you the
facts. With all the questions abound about the quality of the elections,
there are sensitive things to him. Because
we need a serious discussion with all stakeholders.
That's why the roadmap is there. That's why the parliament is there. That's why the courts of law are there. All those organs are supposed to listen and mediate our divergent views. Hopefully, we reach a convergence on where and what we want to do. But Simon, you talked about malpractice as if it is being perpetuated, done only by the NRM. You remember you ran for elections in DP and you ran away. From your conversation with me, you told me you were shortchanged. Was it NRM running the elections in the DP?
Partly.
When you ran for parliament?
No, primary.
So that's why this roadmap, in my view, is useful.
Have I answered you?
No, you have scattered around.
No. But NRM had a hand.
No.
It's now evident.
You know. So that's why political parties that are imploding, I think, this can offer them an opportunity for self-introspection, especially at the leadership level. What do we need to do if there's a disagreement that may well feed into the roadmap and defeat the purpose of a political party's existence? So, to me, yes, and to answer your question, it can help those that are willing. But are our colleagues willing to engage with the hard issues. My assessment from this discussion and previous discussion, they would rather shift the blame and say, maybe not even NRM, Museveni's family. They rather shift the blame and say,
now to the family.
Museveni's family. And that is also okay,
yes, your language.
If that's what they want to take. But blaming Museveni's family, if it is not the actual cause of your internal issues, yes, you will blame and blame and blame, but the wound will remain festering. And so, our colleagues, it appears to me, they are not willing to engage with the real issues. Because if you listen from Honorable Winnie is the one who ran away. They don't want me to use the phrase ran away, but they ran away from the bad manners inside FDC. The bad manners, just after a year and a half or two, has now imploded. The false accusations of money and sectarianism and so on.
You were UPC.
So
are you still in UPC?
Even if I was UPC, I was not born to remain in UPC and die there.
Why do you think Winnie was born?
And by the way, you are the one talking about founder members, the people who brought NRM. You did not found FDC. The people who found FDC, the John Kazuras, have long gone away.
So who tells you that?
They have long gone away.
Who tells you that we are also not supposed to move like you moved?
So, no, Ssemujju finds it.
It's a movement only for you alone and not others.
But when we move away, or when we associate, when we associate with, when we associate, for example, when we associate,
the same way you left UPC,
when NRM associates with UPC or elements of in UPC or DP, you find it an issue. But for you, when you associate the elements of other groups,
why you find it an issue?
Yes.
You cannot claim that you are opposition and NRM. No. You are either opposition or not.
As far as I know,
in Parliament,
as far as I know,
we have a crisis.
As far as I know,
UPC sitting on both sides of
the mole factor.
As far as I know, Honorable Mao is the one to speak for himself. He has said in public that is DP, and the DP membership have good enough have left him in their leadership. So is Amonge and so on and so forth. In this country, we have people in FDC who are vice presidents of FDC, and their spouses are ministers in NRM government. You have not found them at fault at all. Why would you find Amonge at fault? If you think by being an elected member of parliament on UPC ticket, and she's serving as a minister in the government, if you find it offending the law, if you find it offending the law,
you want a response from
challenge it. But if the law doesn't, I'm told that what the law does not specifically bar, it allows it to pass. So let it be in the conscience of Honorable Amonge.
We need to end it on that very note, and I must really thank you very much, thank you very much, Dr. Tanga Odoi. Many thanks to Louis Rubongoya, the Secretary General of NUP, Honorable Winnie Kiza, our frontliner, and Honorable Ssemujju.
He came with his red belly and he forgot to put it on. Can you go?
No, I did not. You know the rules here.
Have a good night.
But that's your...